Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Quinn, and if you'll excuse me this evening, I am been very poorly all weekend. But I wanted to talk about the Forest game before it's yesterday's news. And joining me tonight to talk about it is Haneef. Welcome back to the show, Haneef.
Thank you so much for having me, mate. Thank you so much. It's always interesting when we talk about Manchester United, and it's always a pleasure. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a little while since you were on the show, but there's been lots to talk about this weekend. And it was another one of those dramatic Manchester United wins at Old Trafford, much like the Fergie era, where United went 2-0 down very early on and then came back to win the game 3-2, and a bit of controversy and all thrown in there. A lot of moaning from Forest fans over the referee's decisions, which I didn't see a problem with, to be honest with you. But then again, I would say that. Um, so first of all, what did you make of the game then, Hanif? And then secondly, what did you make of the referees' big calls in the game?
I'll be honest with you. When you watch it from a neutral point of view, it's absolutely fantastic. I think, Kyle, we've entered this era of football where you can't say that any game is going to be easy, regardless of which team you support, especially if you support one of the big six teams, because this game just shows that if you take teams lightly, you will get stung early on. And the Premier League is the Premier League. I think from a fan's point of view, I think it was absolutely fantastic. I think the problem with Forest is they probably weren't expecting it to go that way and they couldn't show up shop. But that gave Man United the opportunity to get back into the game because everything happened so early. It kind of feels like, if in my opinion, United are still in pre-season. I still think they're not fit enough, and I think that's one of the reasons why they've been struggling to adapt to the Premier League, because it seems as if they've come back from their holiday and they've just not grasped that fitness required to be at the top level during their games, and I think that'll come in the next couple of weeks. Um, in terms of the goals, it's a five-goal thriller, and it's a typical Man United performance. I think ultimately, when you want things to go against you, you kind of want them to go against you in the first half of the game, especially when it's early on, because United had all the possession. They had everything going for them. And everybody knows United only need one goal and they can score three or four at home because they've got the quality in their arsenal. So yeah, I thought it was fantastic, Kyle, from a neutral point of view.
So, first of all, the referee he produced a red card after the foul on Bruno Fernandes from Joe Wirral, and then he gave a penalty after Rashford was brought down in the penalty area. Um, both of those decisions, well, I think the controversy with the sending off was that there may have been a covering defender in Willy Bully, who scored at the other end in the first half. And then the Rashford penalty decision has been hotly debated. Um, a lot of pundits think it was a dive, and a lot of uh, there was commentators who was convinced it was a penalty. Like United fans. For me, what happened was there was a if you people tend to post the video angle that reinforces their agenda, um, rather than looking at all the angles and coming to a conclusion. Now, so after examining all the angles, to me, there's a clash of knees, which sends Rashford over. So that's a foul in my book, no matter what Martin Keown says about it. Um, so I think for me the only controversy is that the red card. There probably was a covering defender, and it probably was a little harsh, but it was definitely a foul. So, what was your thoughts on those two decisions, Hanif?
I understand why he was given a red card. I think you might be right in terms of a covering defender, but would you have got there to have got his shot away? You have to ask yourself that question. And I think Bruno was denied a goal scoring opportunity. Personally, I think that was I from a neutral point of view, I think it was. But then, if you want to, it depends if you want to change that rule, if it makes sense. If you think that is a bit harsh, but I don't think it's harsh. I think that that's the rule, and I just think we have to accept that decisions will go for you and they'll go against you. There was a game last week where United played Spurs and they didn't get a handball. This kind of went in their favor, and decisions will go for you and against you all season. And I personally think that referees are under extreme scrutiny because Howard Webb came out and said that there's referees, you'll be able to receive the footage at the end of the month about the games that have been played. And I just thought, why can't we receive the footage like a day later or live? Why are we holding back on that? But I don't think it's harsh, and that's from a neutral point of view. I just think that's part of the game. Rashford's look, you see them, you see them every Sunday morning, those types of challenges, right? And then it's up to the referee. They go for you, they go against you. It's one of them. There was contact. How much contact? That is the question. Enough to go down? I would say probably, especially if you're going at pace. And the referee and the VAR made a decision. Whether you agree with it or not, that's your decision. I think people like Talk Sport, which I don't tend to listen to, but I saw it because I've got a lot of respect for Martin Keown. I just think they're looking for a needle in a haystack, personally.
Yeah, it seems every time Manchester United get the benefit of a refereeing call, then it's debated for 5 days on Talksport on Sky Sports News. I didn't see
Mm,
that kind of forensic coverage of what you just alluded to there, the Garnacho Romero handball incident. Like that
mm.
wasn't debated. And another thing that's been left out was, do you remember the chance yesterday that Casemiro had at the back post and he completely missed his
Yes.
header and he should have scored?
Yeah, a bit
When
wide, yeah.
when that set piece came in, um, Varane was wrestled to the ground. And that was, for me, that's a clear penalty as well. There was no Forest fans bringing that one up on social media. Just the incidents that they felt went against them. But given some of the abuse that I've taken online from Forest fans, then I'm quite glad that they lost yesterday, and I hope they lose every game between now and the end of the season. Nah, I'm only joking.
I can't believe you got abused from Forest fans.
Yeah, yeah, but they're the type of people, they're pretty, as Donald Trump would say, and they're nasty guys, very nasty guys. I'm not saying all Forest. I'm not saying all Forest fans are like that. There's just every club has those types of fans on social media. That have like their account is suspended every couple of weeks and have like 4 followers, and all they ever do is tweet abuse at other people that they don't know. Yeah, it's just one of them ones. But anyway, let's get on to the goals of the game. Forest obviously scored twice inside 4 minutes, which just shocked everybody inside the stadium, I'm sure, and everybody watching at home. Nobody really expected that kind of start to the match. Now, it was absolutely unforgivable for United to concede from an attacking corner, and the last two defenders were Rashford and Anthony. I thought Rashford, I know he's not a defender, but the effort he made there was very, very weak. And then Onana just, he dived too early. He just sat down and just allowed the ball to be rolled into the net. And you've got to say that I want to get his pronunciation correctly. Uh, Awanyi, is that what you call him? The Forest centre forward who scored in every game so far. Um,
Our knee, yeah, he's a talented player.
Yeah,
He's he's
I
pretty
think
good.
he's on fire at the moment. He took his finish very well, although Rashford and Onana made it very easy for him. And then conceded from a corner almost immediately after that. I don't think Wooly Bally knew too much about it. It just hit him in the face and went in. But you had to call into question the zonal marking, which I'm not a fan of at all. I'm very old fashioned when it comes to my views on defending set pieces, and I think it should be man marking. So, what did you make of those two goals then, Hanif?
I'll be honest. I think set pieces in general from the top six or the top or the clubs that won that are you know, the high flyers. I would say the set pieces for most of them are not that good because they concentrate so much on the attacking side of the game. I just think defending set pieces is it's kind of average at best. I don't see many top clubs defending set pieces well at all. When you look at like Sean Dyche and people of his caliber and the type of football they play, they would take advantage of those types of opportunities and defend really well. But now I just feel the big clubs like Man United, they don't defend really well because I think when you're doing zonal marking, which is fine, but zonal marking, you should know it should be put into the players' minds. Okay, when a corner comes in, you're marking him. But if you're gonna keep changing and switching during zonal marking, imagine you've got a big lad versus a small lad. Imagine Aaron Bissaka um, marking Willy Bolly. It's just be like that's just mad. I think you should size up personally. I think that's a lot easier. I think it's something that Man United really need to work on, especially away from home. But when you're at home and you've got that time, it just adds a lot of pressure onto the team. But they were fortunate it was at the front end of the game rather than the back end. And I think Ten Hag will look at that and think, was it necessary to have that many players forward? Should we be a little bit of a should we have a different shape when we're attacking corners? Because the balance is still a bit off. But I think it will come back. But I think the balance is still a little bit off with Man United, and I think that's because it's still early doors.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag wants to play a high pressing game, um, and you've seen in previous games Mount and Bruno pressing very high. But if the
Mm,
press is beaten, then at least Casemiro exposed, and you can see every manager is telling their team just the run down the middle and get get several runners at Casemiro because he's left all on his own, and all of a sudden we're under severe pressure. So he's going to have to tweak his tactical plan a little bit. And for me, I think what would be ideal is to bring in uh, a midfielder to partner Casemiro, especially in big games, especially next week at the Emirates. We need to sign an Amrabat or a Brian Gravenberch, and that person has to start alongside Casemiro at the Emirates. Otherwise, we're going to be exposed again very early on in the game. I just don't see a scenario where Mount, Bruno, and Casemiro can play as a midfield three. The balance is all off, as you say. Now I know
mm,
Ericsson played in this game, but he's the same. If I where even though he's brilliant from a technical point of view and brilliant in that number 10 role, um, again he lacks energy, and I think that's the reason why Mount was brought in the first place. So yeah, I think we need to sign another
mm,
midfielder and make us more solid. Because of course we don't have that Fred option anymore. He always came in the big games to make us more solid, and we don't have that. Manager doesn't seem to rate McTominay. He could yet leave the club in this window, and we'll get onto that later in the show. But yeah, United came roaring back after 17 minutes. Rashford restored to his rightful position on the left hand side. Rashford actually got an assist for the first goal. Lovely finish by Ericsson. Um, he got the pre-assist for the Casemiro goal. Rashford, and then he won the penalty in for the third goal, so he was involved in all three goals. Yeah, it was a wonderful uh, training ground exercise for the Casemiro goal. The Clay had worked on that during the week at Carrington, and it came off superbly. And then Bruno scoring the penalty after that debatable foul on Rashford. Rather than Bruno usually takes a bit of a cheeky run up, trying to make sure the goalkeeper makes a move before he does. But this time, rather than just roll it into the opposite corner, he buried it, given goalkeeper died the right way, but he had no chance. Um, and then after that, United kind of see what happened was when Forest went 2-0 up, they then decided to sit back rather than go for the third goal, and that was to their own detriment. That allowed United to dominate possession. United were all over them then. And then once United got 3-2 up, then Forest decided to make, or Steve Cooper made a couple of attacking substitutions, bringing on Alanga, of course, and then they went for it, and they very, very nearly equalised. They had a few chances. Um, so not convincing by United by any means. Yeah, as you say, I'm sure it was entertaining from a neutral point of view, but it was heart attack stuff from a United fan point of view. And yes, we've won our two home games very, very unconvincingly, and yet another away defeat against Tottenham. So I can't. I know Arsenal have struggled at the start of the season as well. They're experimenting with Thomas Partey and at right back to accommodate Havertz in midfield, and it's not working for Arsenal. But I've got to say, Arsenal got to be strong favourites next week. So were you impressed by United's attacking display after they went 2-0 down?
Yeah, I thought I'm a big fan of wingers, and I like watching Anthony. I know he's not started off really well. He's off. He was off. I would say this. He was back yesterday, but he was off the first couple of games. I just think I think his temperament gets the better of him sometimes. He just doesn't think. He's always angry and up for it, but when you have the ball, you can't get dispossessed, and you've got to do better with the ball. And I think that will get better as we go along. That right hand side is very important for Manchester United because they have to improve on it because you've got Rashford and Shaw, where most of the goals and the attacks will come from. United need to solidify a partnership on that right hand side, and it's very important if they want to challenge in year 3 and 4, which I believe they can. So they need to really build a partnership on that right hand side, in my opinion. And I think Anthony is the player to do it. I know he's got his critics. For me, his hairstyle, his hair color winds me up the most. To be fair, that's the only thing I don't like about Anthony. But I love his aggression. I love the way he plays, and I think he's someone who's gonna get better. I know he's got his critics, but I'll be honest with you, Kyle. You just have to just keep going with him because he will have games where he's not gonna have good games where he makes bad decisions. But when he's on it, he could change a game. He's brilliant. And he was on it yesterday. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he had a really good performance, and I think he shut up a lot of Man United fans. He just it's just like anything, that level of consistency. In terms of Man United, their attack, I do believe United have got, barring a striker, they've got a top attack. It's not one of the best attacks because you didn't get the one piece, which I thought you would have done, and that was Harry Kane. And I thought if you got Kane, I think that would have been the icing on the top of the cake for you guys. You need that striker, Kyle, because I think Rashford's going to be under immense pressure to provide the same amount of goals as he did last season, and you can't rely on that. The goals need to come across the forward line, which obviously they will, but you need that solid striker, which every top club has. Um, yeah, it is a fantastic attack, and I don't think you'll have any problems at home. It's just United need to be if United want to make that step up, and you saw it last season where you're losing away games. That's where your undoing is going to happen. That's where Ten Hag needs to look at his own style and think, you know what, should I really be going for it away from home? If you want the result, if you want to play great football, Ten Hag's style is amazing to watch. I'm not going to lie, but that is where United's attack's going to have to work a lot harder off the ball. I think United off the ball away from home are not great. They just don't work hard enough and they concede silly, sloppy goals. Whenever United concede, it's not due to great football. It's due to players not picking up their man, falling asleep or making silly decisions. And that's what United need to get out of silly decisions because in a couple of years' time, United should be competing for the Premier League title, in my opinion. In year four, Man United should be competing. And I don't think they're that far off when you consider what Ten Hag has done in the last 12 months. So, but yeah, the attack, I think the attack is there. You just need the icing on the cake, really.
Yeah, well, that might come in the next game or the game after that when Rasmus Hoyland is available. Now,
Okay.
I'm not naive enough to think that he's going to hit the ground running. He might do. I think he's a signing uh, for not for the future, but um, he's a project signing. We're not expecting him to get Erling Haaland type of numbers this season or anything like that. But I do think he's a player with a high ceiling. And if he starts off superbly well whenever he makes his debut, that would be brilliant. But we have to be patient with this player. I do think having a vocal point um, will improve us from the off because that's what we're really lacking. I mean, Anthony
Mm.
Martial was anonymous again yesterday. I'm not even sure this guy even wants to be a footballer anymore. He just can't be bothered. I can't believe he's made 300 appearances for Man United. Yeah, he hasn't deserved that really. I mean, a lot of fans were tired of him 5 years ago, and he's been loaned out, and he's still here. I think this is the last year of his contract. I personally would have started Jadon Sancho down the middle yesterday. Again, he was only used as a substitute near the end of the game. I thought he was decent in pre-season, so a bit been a bit harsh on the manager not to give him a start. Considering United have not played well at all in any of these games. Um, and I know Martial is probably more of a striker than what Sancho is, but he doesn't really offer anything and doesn't really want to be there, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, Bruno was definitely the architect again yesterday, wasn't he? Everything happened through him, and
Yeah, it was fantastic.
it was another one of his swashbuckling displays where he's everywhere on the pitch. And I think he's the first Premier League player this season now to create 10 chances. And that just reminds me of what Kevin De Bruyne said about him in a recent Sky interview, where he called him a creative machine when he was asked who's the best attacking midfielder in the league, apart from yourself, Kevin, of course. He said he named Bruno as number one. I think he said Odegaard as number two. So it was very high praise indeed, especially coming from someone who plays for a rival club. Um, yeah, it was. Would you expect the captain of Manchester United, our talisman, to dominate a game against Forest, wouldn't you?
No, I, look, I think Bruno will always have his critics because he sometimes lets himself down. Now he's the captain now. He's got to keep his emotions in check because if he doesn't, he's just going to cost United the team. Sometimes you watch him. I remember when he first came and we were watching him and he went through that season where he was getting goals and and I was speaking to my uncle and I'm like, his performance is not great, but he gets you a goal or an assist. And I said, you kind of need it the other way around. You need a midfielder to have a performance rather than a goal assist in the long run, because his performances will lead the team on to more victories. Um, but when he's on it and when he leads by example and he keeps his cool, there's no one better. There is no one better than Bruno Fernandes. When United are at home, Bruno will be a force to be reckoned with. And then you just want to see that away from home now. And he's got it in his locker. It's not that he doesn't have the attributes. I just think he needs to think about when to, you know, have a gripe at the referees and when to get emotional. Because if you're getting emotional and you're not winning, United fans are not going to be happy about that. It's not a good look because you're the captain of Man United. You wanted to be the main man. You're the main man now. You've got to get these boys over the line each and every time. And him and Rashford are very important this season to get United to a better place than what they should be. Especially Marcus Rashford. I think he owes United fans that you've got to be a bit more mature about things now. And Fernandez needs to get these lads closer to Manchester City as possible. I'm not saying United have to win. What I am saying is can you beat last season's points tally? And that is something that they should be looking at and thinking we should be able to. So if they were to, obviously the young man coming in, the striker, we'll have to see what he's like. But I do think Fernandez does have what it takes to not only be one of the best players in at Man United, but he'll also be the guy that gets them over the line. And that's the guy you want to get you over the line. Because when you mention his name, you just think if he turns up, we're in trouble.
Yeah, do you know what's ironic is that the midfield is probably taking the most criticism this season. Yet every midfielder that started the game yesterday scored. Um, and another surprising stat is that not one United forward has scored so far this season, and we're 3 games in, which is a shocking statistic. Because you'd expect your forwards to get most of your goals, and that really sums up how United have struggled under Ten Hag, just not having a clinical striker, and even the wide forwards are not contributing at the moment either in terms of goals, but definitely an improvement in terms of their performance. I think Rashford, like I said, he was involved in all 3 goals, but there's definitely much more to come from him this season. I feel. Um, yeah, I have to say, United's player of the season so far has probably been Wan Bissaka. Now
Oh yeah.
we know that he's been a brilliant one-on-one defender, but certainly on the ball and in the attacking third of the pitch, there's definitely been a marked improvement from him. He's definitely been working on his game. Now, a year ago, we thought he's never going to fit into Ten Hag's way of playing. He he's not. Jeremy Frimpong is probably an example of the ideal fullback that Ten Hag would want, and Wan Bissaka is not that type of player. But he's made the manager take notice of him. He's made himself first choice at right back, and he continues to be. I thought he was United's best player in the FA Cup final as well, and he's probably been our best player in all 3 games so far this season. So yeah, it's been a massive improvement, hasn't it, from Wan Bissaka?
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. I think when you look at when he came in, and we could see that on the ball he wasn't comfortable. Off the ball, he's probably the one of the best right backs in the league. He's improved his game. Credit to him, and he's only going to get better. Now he needs. I think one of the things is when Aaron came. I think he bought him young, if I'm not mistaken. He was very young. Um, he didn't have a Man United legend to learn off. So when you're a young lad and you come to a big club like Man United, you've got to you've got to hope that your talent gets you through. And his defending did get him through that phase, but now he's realized that the game is not about defending anymore. We don't care about your defensive stats. We care about you being on the ball and you going forward. And he's improved. He really has improved in that area, and his ability is being recognized as being fantastic at the moment. I think now what needs to happen from Aaron is his next phase is him and Anthony have to establish themselves on that right hand side. He's established himself as a right back. Now Anthony has to make sure that he has a really good season and they can make that partnership, because that's very important, because that is a side that Manchester United last season they're not really that strong in that area. It's all right having a good right back, but you need a good right mid as well, or a right wing, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, I think he's been fantastic. I think he'll be picked for England. I'd be shit surprised if he isn't. And and I think there's more to come. He looks so much better, and I'm not surprised because Ten Hag, first of all, he's a coach, and he's probably told him this is what you need to do when you're not in training. And he's just taken it in his stride and thought, you know what, I want to get better. I want to be, I don't only want to be a defender, I want to be an attacking fullback. And that's what he is. He is an attacking fullback who can get back. He's got a bit of pace about him. And then he can show his defensive awareness, which is tremendous anyway. So, fair play to Aaron. He just needs to keep going. Man United's right back is absolutely solid and nothing to worry about. They just need that partnership to be established, and you never know where it's going to take you.
Yeah, it's definitely no issues at right back at the moment. Um, yeah, so before we move on to other topics, just going to do a quick rundown of the player ratings for Manchester United. Um, so Onana probably not his best day, so it's a 5. Wan-Bissaka a 7. Now, Varane, who was replaced at half time, concerning hopefully it's not another injury, is going to keep him out for weeks. So a 6 for Varane, Martinez a 6, Dallo playing as a makeshift as injury crisis there left back, so he's had to come into that position again, which is not unusual for him. So I would say 6 for Diogo Dallo, Casemiro a 7, Ericsson a 7, Bruno a 9, um, Rashford a 7, Anthony a 6, and Martial probably a 3. It was totally anonymous. Um, uh, and the sub Lindelof probably did well in that United didn't concede while he was on the pitch. So 7 for Lindelof. Um, Sancho probably a 6 when he for his 30 minutes or 41 minutes as it transpired, with the 11 minutes being added on at the end of the game. But we're going to see a lot more of that. And McTominay only played the 5 minutes plus the stoppage time, so it's hard to really give him a rating. And Ten Hag, um, I'd probably give him a 6. Really, yeah, it they started off very badly. They obviously weren't prepared well enough for the game, and they turned it around. But I don't think it was a managerial masterclass that won us the game. I think it was just the players. So 6 for Ten Hag there. Yeah, and most of the ratings were pretty good there, apart from the number 9, which pretty much sums up United at the moment. So hopefully there'll be a different number 9 starting the next game. But obviously, I don't with Hoyland, I can't imagine a scenario where he's had his pre-season was disrupted. He's had a is it a stress fracture of the back or something like that? That's supposedly a lot of young players suffer from. So I can't imagine he's going to play 90 minutes at the Emirates. Either he's going to start and come off after 60, or he's going to come on after 60 minutes. Let's see what happens
Mm.
there. It'd be brilliant for the young man if he was to score a significant goal in that game, or any goal really. But if I would take a draw against Arsenal, to be honest, right now, given our away form and given it's one of the most difficult places to go in the Premier League at the moment. If we drew one each and he scored the equaliser, that would be the one of the best possible start for the young guy. So hopefully he can score as early as possible and it doesn't drag on like Diego Forlan. Ideally, what you want to do when your young player is joining a new club, a new striker, you want to do a Wayne Rooney and get a hat trick on your debut, but not many players will achieve that. But let's see. Now there's been some bizarre transfer rumors coming out today. Now you got to expect that. The last week of the window is going to be a lot of frantic activity, a lot of desperation from clubs doing deals that they just wouldn't do at any other stage of the year. Um, Now one of the most bizarre ones that I've just read is coming out from Germany, from Bild, and the guy that journalist who covers Bayern. I think his Twitter handle is CF Bayern. I can't remember his name now, but both those sources are saying that Bayern and United are going to do a loan swap involving Ryan Gravenberch and Scott McTominay. So that would be Scott McTominay going to Bayern on loan and Gravenberch going to United on loan. Can you? That's very bizarre, isn't it, Haneef?
I'm wondering which club is paying more to the end. I don't. Uh, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. I don't know. I'd be shocked if something like that happened. I'm not gonna lie. That would be. I think that would be a United fans and a Glazers dream if that was to happen. But no, I can't see that at all. I just whoever comes up with some of these stories definitely needs to get their heads checked.
Yeah, it's difficult to imagine a scenario where Scott McTominay is playing for Bayern Munich. Um, Now, if you said Celtic, yeah, absolutely, I could see that. But Bayern, in the Champions League semi-final, Scott McTominay starting in midfield, I just don't see that. Um, and Gravenberch at Old Trafford, yeah, absolutely. He's a Dutch midfielder. I mean, Ten Hag loves to sign players that have either played under him or played in the Eredivisie. So could easily see that one happening because he's not getting much game time at Bayern. But I'm very, very surprised that Bayern are supposedly interested in Scott McTominay. But if if he like clearly even looking at the lack of minutes that McTominay has been getting this season, it doesn't. And Fred is gone, and yet McTominay's minutes have not increased. So it's obvious to me that the manager, he's just not in the manager's plans. So I can definitely see Scott on the move. I would be surprised if West Ham don't try to make a move for him because David Moyes is definitely interested in him. United need to sell to buy, so I think the that one's in West Ham's favour at the moment. And United are probably looking 45 million a few weeks ago, but they'd probably sell it for 30 now. But then maybe this swap will come off and it suits both clubs. Let's see what happens. I'm sure there's going to be more and more crazy stories coming out. Now, you may be interested in this one from a Chelsea point of view. Now, like I mentioned earlier in the show, United have a bit of an injury crisis at left back with both Malassi and Luke Shaw being out for extended periods. And United have been scouring around Europe looking for loan options at the end of the window. And according to Fabrizio Romano, the one that they've settled on is Cucurella at Chelsea, who is of course the second choice left back there behind Ben Chilwell. Now he was absolutely superb at Brighton. He was their player of the year. I remember him scoring against us in a 4-0 win. Manchester City tried to buy him, of course, but it hasn't really worked out for him at Chelsea. He's come under for a lot of criticism, really. Um, and now he doesn't get in the team. So if United probably cover all his wages and give Chelsea the loan fee that they want, this might come off. So, what is your thoughts on Cucurella to United potentially then, Hanif?
I can see it working. Because Cucurella is a very intelligent football player. He's very good on the eye. I feel our fans were very unfair. I think we're the worst club when it comes to judging players who have just arrived. We don't. There was no settling in period, uh, but I can see it. He's a very good player, technically gifted, very attack minded, mind you. Uh, so and he's really good. I highly rate Cucurella. I just don't think we were the right club for him at the right time. But Ten Hag, why be the manager to get the best out of him? And it just depends, I guess, what the player wants, and if both clubs are up for the transfer, I don't see why not. I think he'll surprise a lot of Man United fans how good he is. He's really good on the ball, technically gifted, which shouldn't surprise anyone. Um, it's a bit sad the way it's turned out because he was one of the transfers I wanted at Chelsea. But unfortunately, football fans don't have no patience. So, and then when you've got a club that's a bit of a merry-go-round, every player's under scrutiny, and he's one of them. So yeah, I think I think it would, I think it'd do you guys really well if you could get him that way. I am surprised. I'm not gonna lie that United want to loan, but yeah, it just depends. If you're willing to pay Chelsea's loan fee and cover his wages, it could be your answer to that left-hand side.
Yeah, looks like that could happen. And would give a nice balance to the team. You got a solid right back in Wan Bissaka, and then you'd have like an extremely offensive left back in Cucurella. That would, I think that it would be a nice blend. Um, and looks like Luke Shaw could be out until November. Well, Lassie didn't has not even taken part in pre-season. He's been out that long, so United need someone. It doesn't look like the manager wants to give Alvaro Fernandez a go that position. It's something that Van Hal would probably do. He would start anyone, regardless of their age or experience, if he thought they had, some ability. But he looks like he's going to be loaned out to Granada, I think. Um, and United would sign a more experienced attacking left back. So that looks like it has legs in it. While you're here, I also want to ask you about Mason Mount. Um, Obviously, last season, like many Chelsea players, didn't do that well, but throughout his Chelsea career, he's played really well. I think even 2 seasons ago, he had 10 goals and 10 assists, maybe more. Um, so, do you think he can rediscover his form and be successful at United, despite the fact that he's quite a similar player, occupies the same positions as Bruno Fernandes, and probably isn't quite as good as Bruno Fernandes? But do you think he can be a success at Old Trafford?
The thing about Mount is it was always going to be interesting to see how Ten Hag would adapt into the system because I couldn't see it. I was just thought, okay, so how is this going to operate? Um, is he going to be sat next to Casemiro and support him so he has the legs, he can get up and down where Casemiro just sits when you're attacking? I personally think your midfield should be Casemiro, Mount, and Fred. I didn't realize you sold Fred. Now, Fred's a bit. I know Fred might not be the player that you wanted him to be, but there were games where I just thought Fred's not going to get the accolades that he deserves. He's had such a good game, but no one's going to talk about it. But they'll talk about him when he makes a mistake. I thought Fred was very underrated at Manchester United. I thought he brought a lot to that midfield, the explosiveness. He never give up. He's always getting involved in tackles. He doesn't shy away from the game when he's not having a good game. He always tries and does his best. And I thought Fred was very badly treated by Man United fans. I thought he was decent. I really did. In terms of Mason Mount, look, you've got a Premier League player. The problem with Mount is one is injury prone because he's played too much football at a young age, and two, I don't really know where Mount's position is. It's central, and it's that central area which Bruno Fernandes covers. Now, you could play Mount on the wings, and he'll give you legs and he'll give you effort. Whether he gives you output or not, he's not that type of player. He's not going to give you output, but what he will do is cover ground, work hard off the ball, like he did the other day. I think it was against Spurs. He had a decent half. That looked like the Mason Mount of Chelsea, and he needs to improve. Really, Ten Hag needs to coach him and make him better. He just needs to make him better. But he's got the qualities to be successful at Man United. It's just where does he fit in that midfield? Because I can't get my head around how it works. I'm not going to lie to you because I personally believe at this moment in time, your midfield should be McTominay, Casemiro, and Mason Mount. I think that would work so much better against certain teams. But then you need explosiveness from Fred. You need ball carriers in your team. You don't have good ball carriers in your team. That's the issue at the moment. That's why Wolves exposed. If you look at Wolves midfield, they're all ball carriers, and that's something that Man United don't really have in abundance, and they can carry and the ball carriers at pace. That's something that Man United don't have because they sold the one guy that does it really well. So Ten Hag needs to fill in that void. But I think Ten Hag thought that he would have got more money because the ownership would have changed. So I think Ten Hag's plans were scuppered, knowing that these guys are still here. So I think if United can get a ball playing midfielder, it will just benefit them because there's so many games. Casemiro's not going to play every game. I wouldn't even play him midweek. I'd give it to the other lads and try and find that midfield balance because it's very important that you put Mount somewhere where he's going to thrive. And if it's behind Bruno, it's behind Bruno and supporting the central defensive mid. He just needs to find his position because at Chelsea, I'll be honest with you, he played everywhere apart from strike. Played everywhere across the middle, and he had good games and he had bad games. You have to remember you've got a player that's not really been with the manager that long. Frank knew him. Probably Frank Lampard was the longest because he played with him under Derby, and he thought, right, I'm going to put him here because I'll get the most out of him. But apart from that, he's never really had that longevity under a manager. He really hasn't. And now he's got a top class manager alongside him. So Ten Hag just need to improve his technical ability and find him a position where he will thrive. I think Ten Hag will do it, but Mason Mount is the problem is he's not the finished article whatsoever. That's the problem with Man United's window this season. I thought United needed experience and they needed to be brave. That's why I thought Kane and Amrabat at the beginning would have probably suited you guys for the short term, but Ten Hag's looking long term, which I understand. Every manager wants to do that, fair enough. And getting Mountain, it even surprised us. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still shocked he got United, but and he's got the number 7 shirt to go with it. That shocked me even more. Um, but I think he's just gonna have to be patient. He's gonna have good games and bad games, Kyle. That's just the way he was at Chelsea, and I think he'll be the same at Man United.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag is trying to convert him into a number eight, which I don't really think that he is at present. Um, for me, he's either number 10 or he can operate from the left, which he's done for England quite a few times. Um, but playing a deeper role is something he's going to have to adapt to. That must be what Ten Hag has in mind, unless he wants to play Bruno deeper. But for me, we need to sign another midfielder, a ball carrier, like you say. And I think we'll sign Gravenberch or Amrabat, or maybe even both of them, in the next week. And that's
I think you
absolutely
should get
Kyle's
that guy
guy.
from Wolves, mate. Get that guy from Wolves who's running their midfield against you. That guy was a player. I've totally forgotten his name, but he was a player. Was something you could just see. I'm just like, oh my god, this guy should be at United. He's that good. He's really good on the ball, and I thought next to Casemiro, he would be absolutely phenomenal. I've totally forgotten his name, but the guy in the middle who's dictating play and just running rings around here, I just thought, oh my god, this guy's really good. I can't remember his name whatsoever. But it just depends on what your budget is. If you have to sell before you can buy, you've put yourselves I just you've put yourselves in a really bad spot.
Well,
That's the problem.
that's Glazernomics for you. Um, we, I'm trying to think of who are you. Are you talking about Mateus Nunes, the one that Manchester City wanted to
Yeah,
buy?
I think so. Yeah, I think the guy in the middle with the black hair, he was really good. I thought he was really good, Kyle. He just stood out, and just the way he was just gliding on that pitch, and I just thought, oh my god, this guy's so much better. Wolves have got a lot of players that are just vying for a big move, and he's one of them. He's not going to be there long. I think and for me, he looks like a Ten Hag player. He's got everything. He's got the technical ability, and he can glide with the ball. He's just not at the right club. So you see all these qualities, and you saw it the other night. I just was it didn't surprise me that he played that well because Wolves have got ball carriers in their midfield. So it's basically someone with those types of qualities you need. And if you can get him, I think he's the answer to a lot of your issues in your midfield. Um, but he's not going to probably he's probably going to be pretty expensive to be fair. Wolves are not going to let him go cheap.
Yeah. Do you think that possibly um, Harry Maguire could leave before the window shuts? I can see this one happening. I know West Ham pulled out of a deal because Maguire was taking too long to agree, a severance package with Manchester United. Um, I could see now. I could see West Ham coming back in for him. Let's see. It'd be pretty annoying as a United fan if we had a £30 million offer accepted by West Ham, and then he ends up going to West Ham on loan a couple of weeks later. That would be very, very frustrating, considering we need to raise funds to buy players. But in that instance, it would leave us very short because potentially Varane could be injured again, and then Lindelof starting alongside Martinez. Like if Maguire left, then we don't have any experienced centre halves on the bench. 'Cause, Luke Shaw's obviously injured as well, and he fills in that position. So we'd have to sign someone if Harry Maguire was to leave. Could you see West Ham making a late move for Maguire in this window?
It's possible. I think the problem is when Man United, well, when Ten Hag spoke to the Glazers and said he wasn't part of his plans, the United board should have thought, right, how long is his contract? I don't know what his contract is worth, but I know United don't want to pay all of it. So unfortunately, business is business. You've got to pay him whatever his contract is due if you want him to leave. It's as simple as that. So if it was 10 million, for example, he's not going to settle for six. I wouldn't settle for six. Kyle, neither would you, because you're going to take a pay cut to go to West Ham. So I don't really, I think it comes down to the club not being smart enough and giving him what he wants. The problem is you've left it really late, and if you look for a top quality defender now, they're going to cost you an arm and a leg unless someone's available on the cheap. And I personally think Maguire will be at Man United this season. I think he'll see this season out because his place in the England squad is, established. It's not going to happen. He'll just play for England. He'll just come on now and again for Man United. But you do make a fair point that United do need to sign the centre. You can't sell him and not replace him. That's just silly. You're playing with fire because next month Champions League starts. Eventually Maguire's going to have to come on to cover one game a month or maybe two games a month. What are you going to do? What's United going to do then if they sell him and don't replace him? So United need to be very careful on how they address the centre back option. It's not a good position to be in, Kyle, because I'm sure we all thought that Maguire was going to leave at the end of last season, and I think Ten Hag probably thought the same. And I think Ten Hag's plans for this season have kind of been ruined by the ownership situation, because he needed probably another two or three more, and he's probably going to get one. And that might have a ramification on the season. But I personally see Maguire staying at Manchester United this year.
Yeah, we need to sign someone if we do move him on. Wouldn't be surprised if he stays or goes. To be honest, I know United hold an interest in John Clare, uh, Todd Ebo, the Nice centre back, and who could be available for 30 million or so. So let's see if there's legs in that
I
one.
thought they
I
were
think
interested
United,
in Pavard.
yeah, but I think he's going to go to Inter Milan. As things stand, obviously a lot can change in the next few days. I think the window shuts on Friday. A lot can happen between now and the end. A lot can happen on Friday itself. Never mind the next 5 days. So, you know, there'll be situations where players are going to one club and then they'll be going to another club a few
Oh,
years
sorry,
later.
Kyle, sorry to butt in. Haven't you, didn't you re-sign Johnny Evans?
It's not been confirmed yet, but it seems likely given what Ten Hag has been saying. I totally forgot about that actually. Yes, I suppose in a way that could be the replacement if Maguire's let go.
Yeah.
But Johnny Evans is 35. He only played 3 times for Leicester last season. He didn't look that good in pre-season, so for him to be fourth choice centre back would be a bit concerning to me, especially as Varane has a tendency to get injured a lot. So I wouldn't want to be going into a Champions League game against, Real Madrid or Bayern Munich with Johnny Evans starting at centre back. To be honest with you, but I still think we need to sign somebody else. I'm getting the impression that Evans is going to be there for, like, he's won the Premier League with Manchester United. I think he's going to be there to offer his experience and his advice to younger players and play the odd maybe
Mm.
League Cup game or something. That would be what the plan is. I think if he's going to be playing, games against, top Premier League opposition or in the Champions League, then United are taking a massive risk there because I don't think really he's at that level anymore. Um, I think to summarise, replacing Maguire with Johnny Evans would be a massive gamble in my opinion. But
Yeah, I think he
just
was
just
available
finally,
on a free, so they probably took a gamble on him, didn't they? So,
yeah, and I'm sure his wife is absolutely delighted because she works for MUTV. She's one of the chief presenters there, so to have Johnny back at the club
ah, okay.
will make her very happy. Um, so Chelsea won against Luton 3-0 on Friday night. Um, and it seems as if Raheem Sterling is rediscovering his best form. So, how do you feel about Chelsea in the early days under Pochettino, and what do you make of Sterling's return to form?
Very positive. I like the new look Chelsea. I like what I've seen so far. It'd be nice if you can go to could go back to a four at the back, but I think we're accommodating more than anything else because we have a lack of experience in the team. But it's going okay. There's no high expected for me. There's no high expectation, even though we've spent crazy money as usual. We tend to have a footballing board that's not afraid to invest in the club, so we're very fortunate to be in the position we're in because we know that other big clubs are just looking at us thinking, I wish our board would act like us, but we need to be very careful. Um, I've been very clear what my expectation is this season. It's to establish the foundations of a team that can in 3 to 4 years' time challenge for the Premier League title, and that means that this season, in my opinion, Pochettino deserves a free hit. He doesn't. I'm not going to judge him at all. Um, on his position. I think top six is possible, but I just want him to make us solid at home, play good football, and we'll take it from there. And that's it. And the boys have been producing. Performance against West Ham was pretty decent. The result went against us, but they'll come. They will come, and we've got some fantastic youngsters in our team now who are very exciting to watch. And Raheem seemed to have the free roll the other day, and he just pops up in these positions where he can make runs and just score goals. And as long as he's enjoying it, his experience is worth a lot in that team, and he's leading by example. So I'm really happy for Raheem. I just think continuity under a manager and not chopping and changing every time we feel that we're not gonna challenge for the Premier League title. I think we have to look at the long term. We have to, I hate to say it, but we have to take the same approach as Arsenal. We really do. I think United are on the same kind of trajectory as us. They're just 1 year ahead. You have to back your managers. You can't. I hate the Chelsea model of the past. I've hated it for a long time because I prefer um, stability and long term. And I'm hoping this is the way we're going to go. But we'll have to wait and see. This is Chelsea Football Club. Our board have always been a bit erratic, but I think Poch is doing okay. I really do. There are a few things in the club, in the team that I don't like, but overall, he's doing okay, and I will accept that. And there's no high expectations from me for this season. It's just to play good football, which they have been doing. The brand of football is decent, and yeah, we'll see what happens. There's no pressure from me at all.
Yeah, I think Chelsea might do better than most people are expecting this season, but yeah, Pochettino needs to be given a couple of seasons to see what he can do, because there's a lot of potential um, in the squad, but not necessarily players who are the finished article. So it needs to be given time, which is obviously no manager's given time at Chelsea. But I mean, if anyone was expecting Todd Bowley to be different from the previous regime, they were wrong because Chelsea had about four different managers last season. That's even worse than the Roman era. Um, but yeah, Pochettino is definitely a long-term project manager. He's not someone like Mourinho who wants to be successful in his first season. He's someone who wants to build. So he has to be given time to do that. So um, I noticed something today in the Liverpool Newcastle game, which was obviously the showpiece for Super Sunday. Um, was a hell of a contest. You'd expect Newcastle to win after Liverpool went down to 10 men, but they didn't. Liverpool won the game simply because they had a deadly centre forward. Now, um, Darwin Núñez was mocked last season for his performances by rival fans, but I anticipated that he needed a season to kind of, break himself into the Premier League, and then his second season, and we would see the best of him, and that's what we're seeing. Those were two deadly finishes against Newcastle, um, and won the game for Liverpool. And I suppose the point I'm trying to make is we've we've talked about this on the show a few times already. That when you have a striker who knows where the back of the net is, you can win games that you don't even deserve to win, and that's exactly what happened for Liverpool today. So it's what any team who wants to win the Premier League or even qualify for the Champions League, you need to have that player in your squad. Even Nunes didn't start the game, but if you've got someone like that, either to start or come off the bench, who can just get you goals from nothing, then it's a valuable asset, and it's what United need, and probably what Chelsea needs as well. Oh, we know that City have it. I don't think Arsenal really have it, but it's definitely something that every team needs, and it's made me very, very jealous. I'm hoping that Hoyland can produce those sorts of goals as the season goes on. But I know Jackson shows great potential, but I do think Chelsea needs somebody else as well in that position, and I think they're in the market for one. I know Nkunku is still to make his debut for Chelsea. He's not. He's more of a second striker, really, though. But he will get you a few goals as well. I feel.
Yeah,
Um,
look, I think Darwin Núñez is very highly underrated. I think he's a fantastic player. If you look at his Benfica career, he was someone who started off slow. He got more assists than goals first season for Benfica. So um, listen, Premier League's a tough league. When a player comes in, especially from Benfica, there will be a settling in period, and then you hit the ground running. You turn the game around. But Newcastle have learned the hard way. If you do not take your chances, you are not going to get anywhere. And they learned a very hard lesson. They dominated that game when Virgil van Dijk got sent off. So if you don't score, you're not going to win at all. And when Darwin Núñez came on, we just needed them two shots, and they got the win. And that's why you pay the big bucks. That's why Liverpool have got one of the best forward lineups in the league, in my opinion. So yeah, fair play to him. I'm really happy for him. I think he's a fantastic player, an absolute fantastic. He's a beast up front. He's the type of player that I'd want Chelsea to have up front. In terms of Jackson, he does everything right. He just needs to keep going. It'll come in time. It will really come in time. Scored his first goal the other day. Really happy for the lad. He just needs to keep going. On Kunku, once he's fit, let's have a look. Let's see what it's like in the Premier League. But yeah, it's coming along. The performances over the course of 90 minutes have been decent. Especially when you watch a game live, you get emotional. But when you watch a game again, I just thought, you know what, we had a decent performance. And then at home, when we're at home, and that's where we need to become strong at home. Be strong at home, give a good account of ourselves, and let's see where we end up.
Mickey here says he was at the match yesterday. He thought Rashford was poor. He hasn't looked interested since the Beans video with Lingard. I'm not quite sure what that is, but um, yeah, Rashford. Um, yeah, like I said earlier, he may have contributed to all the goals, but definitely feel there's more to come from him. And do not want to see him play at number 9 ever again because clearly he doesn't want to play that position, and he doesn't compete in aerial duels. Um, he runs in behind, hoping that the defender will miss his header, and that's what wingers do. So yeah, if he's going to play, he has to play on the left. In my opinion, um, yeah. So certainly going to be an exciting and unpredictable season. Albeit, it feels as if, and it has been this way for the last 5 years, that the rest of the teams are competing for second position, becoming that way in the Premier League, which I never thought it would happen. Manchester City have not been convincing at all in the first 3 games, yet they're sitting on 9 points. It seems as if Rodri gets their second most number of goals now, even though he's a DM. He tends to score a lot of goals, and it was a wonderful finish from him today. Um, yeah, so it's going to be exciting, but perhaps not in terms of who wins the league. I would make Man City firm favourites again, unfortunately, but I hope I'm very wrong about that. But let's see. So Hanif, thanks for coming on the show again. I'll be sure to have you on whenever United are playing Chelsea because that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
All right. I shall see you later. If everyone could please smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and get your comments in down below.